Watkins Glen, a quaint village nestled among innumerable falls along the Finger Lakes region in the heart of New York wine country. The town was made famous for the road races held along the village's main street in the late 40s and 50s, which eventually made their way to the 3.4-mile circuit that is Watkins Glen. The Glen has played host to many racing series, including Formula One and the United States Grand Prix. But this weekend, the Ferrari Challenge North America has descended upon this iconic track for the fourth round of the 2024 championship season. Who will master this old-school circuit and emerge victorious from the weekend? Only time will tell. Only time will tell indeed. Ferrari Challenge then, North America, this, the 488 Challenge, our mix of Pirelli and Shell drivers in the 488 cars who are ready to take to the track for 30 minutes of Ferrari Challenge racing here at Watkins Glen. You can see the cars and drivers then in the final stages of preparation before they get underway, and delighted to say that down there in the pit lane, enjoying the sunshine and getting some great intel for us, is Amanda Busick. Good afternoon.
Hey, Dave, and yeah, you'll see behind me the hospitality that Ferrari has set up this weekend. I was just down by the podium finishing up some of those winter interviews from the Copa Shell race, and just 30 minutes or so after this race, all the podium celebrations will be behind me as well. So that's where those drivers are trying to head. And then tonight, big night for Ferrari. They're going to have some special reveals on hand and some videos that'll be released, as well as a fireworks display, as we talked about, from one of our drivers, Tony Davis. But with you look at the 488 race ahead for us, I want to go to that front row, and Massimo Perina and Jason McCarthy. These guys have been battling it out all season long. Massimo has swept the season. Jason McCarthy has been runner-up. He doesn't feel like he necessarily has the pace to be with Massimo today, but hey, that's why we go racing. But when it comes to Massimo Perina, what an excellent start to the season he has had. But he talked to me about his first trip to Watkins Glen. It was his second event that he has ever raced in his career, and he talked to me just about the growth and development as a racing driver from then to now, and we see it clearly happening in this season for him, Dave.
You're absolutely right, and very well articulated, yes. And Massimo is a really likable young man, I have to say. So here we are. It's round 4 of the Ferrari Challenge for 2024, and it is race 1 for our 488 cars. The, as I mentioned, mix of Pirelli and Shell drivers, and the halfway point of our season then here at Watkins Glen International, with Sonoma Raceway still to come. Then it's Indianapolis, and then it is the Finale Mondiali in Imola in Italy in the middle of October. So here we are then in Watkins Glen. Everyone said you'll love this place, and they've not been wrong. What an impressive venue, and nestled in some just amazing countryside. And the track itself is a real test for our drivers. There's no question about that. The 11 turns that this track offers, and the guardrails are always very, very close, and it is a track that's probably more undulating than you really appreciate, as it follows the topography of the area here in New York. So the weather conditions then, they've been glorious pretty much all day. Track temperature remains 39 degrees, the air temperature 31, 49% humidity and 12 kilometers per hour of wind. That's what greets our drivers then. And you can see that wind having the impact on the Ferrari flag then, as it flutters in the wind that's being afforded to drivers. And alongside me is Tony Verlander. Tony, you said you'll enjoy this track, Dave, and you've not been wrong. If I'm honest with you, perhaps overtaking here, you've really got to be on your mettle and on your marks, haven't you, to make it work?
Yeah, it is true. It's quite challenging to get really like a run on the other driver, get side by side, get equal to the driver you want to overtake. It almost needs a mistake from the driver ahead of you. What is interesting to coming this race, so P2 is the driver who won the 296 race in the Pirelli class, and then we have Massimo Perina, who is with the 488 being so dominant this year. So it's actually quite interesting to have this kind of battle. So the driver who won the 296, now he's there to fight with the 488. So this is shaping up quite interesting, and like I think we said in the opening race of the season in Austin, would be quite interesting to see Perina, what he can do with the new 296
I agree.
challenge car. So this is quite quite interesting concept here to evaluate drivers, to evaluate the performance, and I think it's good.
It's an interesting dynamic for this race. Let's take a look at the grid then as they line up. It is Massimo Perina once again pole position. Jason McCarthy chased him hard. He goes from P2. Michael Porter from P3 with Gray Falver going from P4 on the grid. It's Mark Musso and Logan Broughton. They are on row 3. It's P5 and P6. Before we get to the Shell drivers, Gerdas van Slovers. Great job. Pole position for Gerdas. Dalton alongside him. Then it's Dan Magnuszewski and Greg Hopkins on row 5. Row 6 is Enoch Hurd and Stephen Chen. To the 7th row of the grid, P13 and 14, it's Gary Ott and Steve Blevitt. And then as we go to row 8, we find Richard Pineda and Joe Rosenbacher. They go from P15 and P16. To the 9th row of the grid, Henry Hummel and Kevin Orsini. What can they do from there? The 10th row is Brad Evans and Greg Griffin. And good to see Lance Corley back at. He goes from P21. He has Anthony DiCarlo alongside him. And Jeffrey Keel then bringing up the back of the pack then. 23 cars out there on track in the 488 race. Their first race of the weekend then. The mix of Pirelli and Shell drivers. And the dynamic that Tony was talking about. Jason McCarthy, he's already been a race winner today. But he had to play second fiddle in the 488 qualifying to Massimo Perina, who has been unbeaten thus far in Ferrari Challenge Trofeo Pirelli in the 488. Is he going to maintain that unbeaten run today? Or is Jason McCarthy or Michael Porter going to be able to take it to him? Well, we're going to find out in around about 30 minutes time then. 30 minutes of racing to come from the Ferrari Challenge cars.
Based on the fact that the performance we see from Perina this year, our pole sitter even for this race, Jason McCarthy's only chance is the start, the opening lap, turn 1. So I think he will go all in. If he has the slightest chance, he tries to take the lead.
Well, let's see. As we split the shot for you to give you both vantage points of the start of the race, then the safety car will peel off into the pit lane. It will be the responsibility of Massimo Perina and Jason McCarthy then to control the pace of the rolling start. They are P1 and P2 on the grid. It's a huge bunch of cars ready to go racing here. And a late call by the safety car before peeling off into the pit lane then. Massimo Perina is already champing at the pit. So too Jason McCarthy, as is Michael Porter and Gray Falver as well. As Massimo Perina gets the greens and absolutely floors it. And Jason McCarthy and Michael Porter and 3 abreast they go into turn number 1. Jason McCarthy really losing out at the start of that race, trying to come back now. We can see from the dual shot here, and I think he's been able to do it as well. So yes, Jason McCarthy, whoa, as they go side by side then. So Michael Porter losing out there, but Jason McCarthy managing to get that P2 position back. But as we have seen before, once Massimo Perina gets going, he just escapes up the road. But the overtaking's not done here, as Mark Musso was under real pressure there from Logan Broughton, and Michael Porter really losing out right at the start of this race. Really unfortunate. And Gerdas van Slovers has a little bit of panel rubbing going on in the Shell drivers as well, and 1 or 2 cars have gone around.
Yeah, this has been an aggressive start for the race. Jason McCarthy lost a lot of ground at the start, so he let his car go past the leading car. He had to back off, and at this time Massimo Perina went down with the throttle and was able to pull the gap, and Jason McCarthy actually went down to P3, almost P4, and did really well in the exit of 1.
Now that just looked like a spin all on his own, to be honest with you, and that is that Magnuszewski, I believe, has gone around there. Now, I don't think, not sure there was contact at all. I just think he went around, but I only got a fleeting glance at the shot just before you saw the car going around. So a lot happening in the opening stages of this race. In fact, on the opening lap of this Ferrari Challenge 488 race. So we'll try and pick the bones out of it in due course. But what we do know is that Massimo Perina is doing what he's done for every race that he's led so far, and that is just dived up the order, or dived up the road rather, and is undaunted by anybody, including Jason McCarthy and Gray Falver, who are chasing him down. Amazing.
Yeah, he's doing a perfect job in qualifying 2. Quick, whoa!
Now that was, as you could see there, the 426 car driving into the gap that actually wasn't there. Joel Rosenbacher, he went to make the turn, and where he wanted to turn into was full of another car. So Joel Rosenbacher then making contact there.
Yeah, with a hit like that, you need to be really careful with the front tires, the toe, everything, if something happens, because next you have the S's that you almost go flat out, and he's really backing off, so I think he got some damage in the car.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right, because we've seen other cars come flying by, haven't we? So Massimo Perina leading, Gidas Venslovas leading for the Shell drivers, and there's quite a bit of dust has been kicked up there as someone shortcutted the bus stop, I think, Tony.
Yeah, this has been, we are on the second lap, and there's been so many things going on. So Massimo Perina in qualifying, only 2 laps, securing the pole. Really good start for him. Only question mark, did he brake? That meant that J.J. McCarthy went forward because Perina braked at the start, or did he keep his speed consistent, and it was just McCarthy's sort of mistake to go too much ahead. So that's the only question mark about the start. Then the opening lap, he opened a 1.7 second gap in lap 1.
Amazing stuff. Running P2 is the 311 car then of Jason McCarthy. Then it's Gray Falva. Mark Musso is P4. Michael Porter dropped down the order, as did Logan Broughton. For the Shell drivers, it's Gidas Venslovas and Matt Dalton ahead of Gregory Hopkins, Steve Blevitt. And here is Gray Falva then, who's running P3 in the Pirelli drivers for our 488 Challenge race. One of the weekend. They've got 2 races this weekend, and this is the first one. There's Gidas, the Continental Autosports driver. Did a very, very good job. He was really impressive in qualifying, and he's taken that qualifying pace and he's converted it to race pace as well. He is being chased down by Matthew Dalton then. Matt Dalton, the Ferrari of Long Island driver, but for the moment, Gidas has got sufficient margin between himself and the charging Dalton and Hopkins, and there you can see Gregory Hopkins running P3 for Foreign Cars Italia into the bus stop. We've lost Steve Chen and Joel Rosenbacher, we think, following damage following the coming together that we saw earlier on. There is the Mark Musso car, the back end of it, running downhill now through that left-hander, and there is our P2 driver, Jason McCarthy. So Gray Falva and Mark Musso then contesting P3. It's Mark Musso running P4 at the moment, long-standing Ferrari Challenge driver, and one never to be discounted. But as we have seen before, once Massimo Perina is away and racing, he is seemingly not to be caught. So Perina from McCarthy from Falva, Venslovas, Dalton, Hopkins for the Shell drivers, and Mark Musso just quietly going about his business of trying to reel in Gray Falva here, who is running in P3. There is the Mark Musso car. So currently running in P4. He's had a couple of podium places during the season so far, a couple of P3s. He would certainly like to have another one as well, and what's preventing that? Well, it's the Gray Falva car that's ahead of him at the moment, and he's not quite close enough to be able to make any moves on that car. So Hopkins is running P3 at the moment, driving the 413 car, very closely connected, of course, to Roy Carroll. And let's hear from Amanda Busick.
Absolutely, yeah, and that Be Safe Storage is the dead getaway that he is somewhat connected to the Carroll clan, and that is the son-in-law of Roy Carroll. He is married to Haley. I caught up with them after Roy Carroll just got podium in the prior race, and they kind of mentioned, they were like, well, now we're going to look for another one out of Greg, and daughter Brittany from Roy Carroll is also here this weekend racing in Club Challenge. But you go back to Laguna Seca, what a moment for this family. Not only did Roy Carroll get that race win in race number 2, Greg Hopkins did as well. So building memories for the Carroll clan.
Yes, it's a great family story, and thanks for sharing that, Amanda. You're absolutely right, and great to hear that we have the next challenge entries currently running in Club Challenge as well. So that's going to be something that we very much look forward to. So Massimo Perina then continuing to stretch his legs to some 4 seconds now over Jason McCarthy and Gray Falva. Then it's Gidas Venslovas, Matt Dalton and Gregory Hopkins, the very car that you can see Center screen right now, running in P3 ahead of Steve Blevett and Gary Ott. And that's the way it looks. So what can you say about this young man, Massimo Perena? I mean, he's just, his racecraft, his quali-craft, thus far, for such a young man, absolutely faultless, Tony Verlander.
Yeah, it's down to his pure performance. So he's really, really quick with this 488 car, challenge car. He can control his nerves. He doesn't get overexcited or doesn't lose pace going into crucial moments. So qualifying seems to be his strong point. Race starts, managing restarts even stronger. So his pace never sort of disappears. So for a team, for an engineer, it's quite easy to work with a driver like that who's always giving the maximum based on a lap time. So you constantly just improve, and obviously teams have a great know-how of this 488. It has been around for a long time, so whatever Massimo Perena and his teams is doing is working out perfectly.
Yes, consistency is key. Yes, we're watching Logan Broughton then trying to reel in Michael Porter here. This is the battle that's going on for P5 in the Pirelli race of our 488 Challenge cars, and it is perhaps very, very close here, these two, but as we've seen in the previous races, trying to find a way by here at Watkins Glen is not perhaps as easy as it might look. You have to pick your point perfectly, and you have to stay absolutely committed to it and make it work, because you don't get the invitation twice. And at the moment, Logan Broughton not quite close enough to Michael Porter to be able to make a pitch for that P5 place. Mark Musso is ahead of them, running in P4. He also tried to attack Gray Falva, but for the moment seems to have just drifted away a bit from that fight that was going on for P3. Meantime, for the Shell drivers, Gerdas van Slovis, Matt Dalton, the top two have broken away a bit from Gregory Hopkins. That's the way it looks at the moment. And there is P1, there is P2. And there, right on cue, is P3 in our Shell drivers for the 488 Challenge, with 20 and a half minutes remaining in this, and still plenty going on elsewhere down the order, as you can see. Now, this is Griffin in the 471 car, and Henry Hummel, who drives the driving the 429 car for Ferrari of Lake Forest. And Henry Hummel is coached by Max Blancardi, who's had some success in the Ferrari Challenge and many other racing categories as well. All of these drivers, or most of these drivers, having driver coaches. So Henry Hummel making his debut in the Ferrari Challenge this year, and a very welcome addition into the Ferrari Challenges he is as well. And I was just about to say, as we see Brad Evans there overtaken by Pineda, I was just about to say, Tony, commentator's curse, that they seem to have settled themselves down a little bit.
Yeah, that was quite a late move, so luckily there was no contact. The overtaking driver went more to the inside, taking the inside curve, but also some collaboration with the driver who lost the place. He opened the racing line a bit, otherwise we would have seen a similar contact that we saw earlier. Yes. So thinking about the race leader Perena, so I think at this stage he could also ease off a bit, back off a little bit the rhythm he has. The reason of a safety car, if there's a safety car, he still needs to have good tires for that safety car, not to be overexcited based on a lap time or just pulling a gap which is close or closing even to a 10 seconds. So 7-second gap is in my opinion enough, so he could just cover himself in case we need a safety car and he needs to restart leading the whole queue. So this would be also interesting and important to manage the race in the right way.
Thank you, Tony. Interesting insight as always from the man that's been there, done it, worn the t-shirt and washed it several times.
And wore it also backwards.
Logan Broughton then is continuing his chase down on Michael Porter. This is for P5 in our Pirelli drivers in the 488 Challenge that you're watching live here at the Watkins Glen circuit. Now, Logan Broughton He's clearly got the pace, but Michael Porter is doing a very good job of defending here. Now, bear in mind, Michael Porter, having lost out 2 places right at the start of the race, is not very keen on giving away another place, and therefore it is down to Logan Broughton to try and find his way through. The big movers Well, Griffin moving up 8 places and 5 places for Anthony DiCarlo as well. So some big movers in the race. You can see from the progress chart on the left-hand side of your screen. And there you could see as Logan Broughton tried a bit harder, he just dipped a wheel into the grass, and that, you know, that cost you some valuable time, Tony.
Yeah, he's been several laps behind another car, just behind the car 322 Porter, and corner where he went wide is you open the throttle really early on. Being so close to the other car, you lose a little bit of aero balance, and also the track drops a little bit downhill. So also with 488, the tires and the tire wear is higher than 296. So we are more or less the half distance of this race, and you start to feel it with these cars. These challenge cars that have been around a long time, but different balance compared to the 296. So here you have a higher tire wear than the new challenge car.
You just saw Dan Magnuszewski making his way past Anthony DiCarlo with a very bold move, but a move that paid off, and it was great to see that overtake, proving that overtaking can indeed happen. You've just got to pitch your stall out in exactly the right place and be determined and committed to do it when you do, and that's precisely what Dan Magnuszewski did with Anthony DiCarlo. So the lead remains at 7.1 seconds for Massimo Perena, who's got that very comfortable margin at the head of the Pirelli race. And for the Shell drivers, good as Sven Slovas, although Matthew Dalton has set the fastest lap, as to be said, and please bear that in mind. So along the start-finish straight here, and diving into turn number 1. Every driver looking at opportunities or chances perhaps to elevate their position in the order at the moment, and 3 abreast, Tony.
Yeah, the car needed to back off, slowing really the speed. So there was almost a moment going into the exit, but a tight battle continues between these 2 cars. But was it the car that was leading this group, or was it a car that was overtaking? Suddenly lost speed.
Yeah, did you? It could have been a missed gear change, perhaps, Tony, or
maybe
something.
He lost a lot of speed instantly, and these 2 cars were a little bit surprised to overtake him to the SS. So, yeah, things that happen in the race.
Let's go back to this battle then between Logan Broughton and Michael Porter, who are getting much. I mean, Logan Broughton, having dipped the wheel on the entry to the bus stop into the grass, that cost him some 100ths or maybe even tenths. Well, now he's coming back at Michael Porter, so Michael Porter doing a good job in defending his P5 position, but Logan Broughton had got a lot closer than he had been on the previous few turns, although it seems on the start-finish straight there, Michael Porter is able to show a clean pair of heels to Logan Broughton, who's going to have to try and find his way back towards the back end of the Michael Porter car. Massimo Perena leading and not taking too much notice of what Tony has advised him in terms of easing up, because it's increased the margin to 8 and a bit seconds now. But even so, Jason McCarthy and Craig Fowler running P2 and P3. Then it's Mark Musso out on his own P4, and then Michael Porter and Logan Broughton, which is the battle that we're watching right now in the Pirelli class. What do we got? Just under 15 minutes of this race remaining. Ferrari Challenge 488. The mix of Pirelli and AM drivers, the Shell drivers with the yellow strip across the top of the windscreen, and the Pirelli drivers with the red strip across the top of the windscreen. And Steve Blevitt has brought his car into the pit lane. So when we saw that earlier on, Tony, then that slight loss of speed, perhaps it was more than just a missed gear. There, you could just see Jason McCarthy going through. Here then is Gray Fowler as Mark Musso tries to reel Gray Fowler in. Mark, of course, would love to be back on the podium again here at Watkins Glen. Is he going to be able to do that? Well, the prevention at the moment comes in the shape of the Ferrari of San Francisco car of Gray Fowler, which is running P3 and is center of your screen right now. And now it is Mark Musso that you can see, the driver doing the chasing, and that is a big impact, Tony.
Turn 1, exit of turn 1.
Exit of turn 1, thanks. And yeah, that's stripped some of the covering away from the tyre barriers. Let's take a look here.
Yeah, must have lost it on the exit curb. Oh, even before. And going, ooh, that was a big one also. Going backwards to the tires, so.
Yeah, don't want to see that. Saw it in replay then, and actually, that looked, I mean, there was no one else involved in that at all, was there?
No, normally I would have thought that he would lose the car later on, running the car really wide on the exit curb and still having some steering input, but the line was quite tight, and I was surprised to see him spinning. Don't see anything strange on the track, so maybe just a driver error.
Okay, so full course yellow, safety car is out, then the cars will be brought under the control of the safety car with what have we got, 12 minutes of the race remaining, and it's the very point that you were talking about earlier on in that for our race leader, Massimo Ferrari, didn't need to push as hard because if a safety car comes, you know, you want to have life in those tyres.
Yeah, I think he still has the thing under control, but still, you know, with the heat that we have outside, the heat that the track has right now, it's better to save a little bit of the tires. Everything you have more than 3 to 5 seconds, it's quite big gap, and the pace he has had the whole season. So it's beautiful to build up a gap which is closer to 10 seconds, but you know, you need to have life in those tires, but I still think he does.
Okay, well, so the car brought under, or the race brought under the safety car then. Just trying to identify who it was who entered the barriers. I think it was Kevin Orsini. I think. I'm trying to just trying to protect myself in terms of, you know, you only get a fleeting glance at the car. And there it is. That's going to have to be recovered with 11 minutes of the race remaining. Now, the integral safety of these 488 Challenge cars is unquestioned as we look at Matthew Dalton then running in P2 for the Copa Shell drivers. Running P2 for the Pirelli drivers is Jason McCarthy, and let's go down to Amanda Busick.
Well, Dave, there's a lot of drivers in our paddock with big smiles, but I'm not sure it gets bigger than this guy right here of Matt Dalton. He is just a joy of a guy to be around. I've covered Matt in a couple different series, and he's really seemed to find a home here in Ferrari Challenge, being able to focus on his development as a racing driver. He's found the podium twice this season in that runner-up position, but when you think of a restart opportunity, Matt Dalton was running some of the fastest laps around Watkins Glen in his class. So could this be the opportunity where all of that experience this season that he's been working on in his racecraft, could it come to fruition right here for Matt Dalton? Either way, in a position at moment for another podium, but one step higher would be his first win in the series.
Very good point you make, Amanda Busick. Yes, be very, very interesting. Certainly he'll be champing at the bit to try and to do that, that's for sure. So the driver of the 433 car, Matt Dalton, then driving, of course, for Ferrari of Long Island. And right behind Matt Dalton, who possibly might have similar ideas, is Gregory Hopkins. So we will see. So the car's brought under the control of the safety car on a full course yellow momentarily. You can see the 498 car of Enoch Hurd there. And there is the safety car leading the cars around. So Massimo Perina leading ahead of Jason McCarthy and Gray Falver. And then for the Shell drivers, Gerda Svenslovas, Matt Dalton and Greg Hopkins. They are the top three for our Copa Shell drivers with just under 9 minutes of the race remaining. And we're sure it's the Kevin Orsini car that we think made contact with the barriers. What was stripped off the front of the tyre wall there was like a protective sheeting, which I'm guessing that's going to have to be replaced, Tony, before they'll allow racing to recommence. So I'm just beginning to question whether they're going to be able to accomplish that in the 8.5 minutes remaining.
Yeah, marshals, they know the standards that they need to have for this track, so they will very quickly see what is needed to get the track back in the condition. And like you mentioned, the car is still there. We have 8 minutes. It will be tight. Most likely, this is the order we're going to finish the race. Yeah.
Well, we will see. They work very quickly here in Watkins Glen. And if they can do it, they will do it and get the cars racing once again. But the irony is that this 488 Challenge race that we've seen here, right at the very, very start, there was lots and lots going on. It was a job for you and I to keep our eyes across everything. Then everyone seemed to settle down a little bit, and then we get into the final third of the race, and there's still more going on.
Yeah, out of all the 3 starts we had today, this was the most busiest start, most busiest turn 1 opening lap. Some contacts, some overtaking issues. Later on, turn 1 there was another contact. Drivers were having a lot of confidence, and they really were some aggressive driving as well, but overall I would say was entertaining. It has been an entertaining race so far.
Yes, I would agree with that. So then the cars being led around this Watkins Glen track at speeds they'd really rather not be doing. Of course, they would like to be up to racing speed and back out racing again, but only can do so when everyone is absolutely convinced that the circuit is safe to do so. Massimo Perena, leader for the Pirelli drivers. Gerda Svenslova's leader for the AM drivers. And there is the 476 car, driven by Lance Corley. Very, very experienced Ferrari Challenge racer, and there's a lot of activity down there. And I think the activity there is primarily because that covering across the tyre barrier is going to have to be replaced or certainly reaffixed, which I don't think is going to be the work of a moment, and may well take more than the 6.5 minutes we have remaining in this Ferrari Challenge race. We will see. So, for the moment, drivers have to just keep cool, calm, and collected, which is difficult in the high temperatures that we have here, and of course the temperatures inside the 488 Challenge cars are greater than those that we're experiencing around the Watkins Glen circuit, so they're just going to have to try and keep their cool as best they can, and ironically try and keep some temperature into the tyres if they can, as well as we get into the final 6 minutes of this race. And the Richard Pineda car there, you can see, driver of the 452 car for Ferrari of Washington. So the 488 Challenge Evo cars, which have been so successful as the Ferrari Challenge cars, and indeed across so many other facets of GT racing, replaced now by the 296s, but there are still so many drivers that want to drive these cars. That completely separate classification for the 488 Challenge, which continues to race across our Ferrari Challenge weekends. So take a look at some of the progress chart here, and the most impressive for me is the driver of the 471 car, Greg Griffin. Look at that, up a huge number of places, 9 places, up 5, Brad Evans, up 6, Anthony DiCarlo, up 4, Lance Corley. I love that graphic where you can actually see the progress of some of the drivers. Now, paradoxically, there are some drivers that have dropped down the order, Tony, and I just feel it would be improper for me to point that out.
Yeah, overall the qualifying is super important, but this graphic really shows that in the race you can gain places, driver errors, going wide in the corners. At the same time you can lose those. I think Magnusevski was one of the drivers spinning early in the race, yes. So the -6, he lost a lot of places there. His spun, I think, was exit of turn 7. He has recovered a bit, and for sure when he saw the safety car, he wanted the race to restart again, so everybody would be closer together and he could try to overtake some of the cars and gain back the places he lost, but it doesn't look so promising for the restart right now.
Well, we're being told that this now is the final lap, Tony, so regrettably the repairs needed to the barrier is not going to be able to be conducted in time to get us back to racing once again, so this is the final lap. And therefore, the order, as you predicted, Tony, that's on screen at the moment is the order that the cars are going to finish in. So that means for, dare I say it, Massimo Perena, 5th win in a row. That's really impressive from that young driver, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very impressive. So I don't know if he's doing some sort of record. I remember following the series with Cooper McNeil. He was winning a lot as well, but for sure it's impressive start for Massimo, and I already have like a thought process of seeing him in a 296 challenge car and maybe even 296 GT3 car, and see how he feels with those cars and how his speed will develop from there. So far it's been impressive to follow.
Funnily enough, I don't think you're probably the only person that's been thinking about that either, Tony.
There might be even some drivers worried about his pace.
Yeah. I think you may well be right there. So there we have it then. Regrettably, not the way we want the race to end, but of course, driver safety is of absolute paramount importance, and if the track can't be got readied before the clock has counted down to zero, then. Now, the winner in the Copa Shell race is Gurdas Venslovas, who I know you met earlier on in life, didn't you, Tony?
Yeah, I did. January in Courmayeur in Italy, Italian Alps. There was a Corso Pilota, Ferrari on ice. After 5 to 6 years, it was the first time Ferrari brought their cars to an event, a driving event on ice and snow. Brand new Puro Sangue cars there, and I met him there. He was hesitating, should I go with Ferrari Challenge, Club Challenge? I said go for it, and I spotted also with the ice and snow driving, he had a good car control.
Yes.
He was, let's say, one of the few drivers that I followed, and I said he has some talent. We gave some trophies with Michele Rugolo, so he was one of our options for winning those trophies, and yeah, I like his approach. When he's in the car, he's quite decisive, but he still have some doubts where his talent's gonna take him, and yeah, he just seemed to be a bit more confident every weekend, and he's really grateful. Somehow he really keeps saying that he's so happy to be here and so happy that he discovered the world of Ferrari Challenge, so he can go racing, improve his talent, but then also race against the others. That for him is a new environment. So I'm really happy to follow and see his progress.
Yes, no, very good to see, and a great story that you tell there. And in my opinion, any driver that can drive quickly sideways is a good driver.
Yeah, exactly.
And you'd know all about that coming from the country that you do, Tony. So yes, and just another very, very interesting facet, if you like, of the world of Ferrari, where I genuinely believe you get immersed, don't you, in terms of how well you get looked after by Ferrari, you know, as a driver, whether through Corsa Pilota, then into maybe Club Challenge, and then Ferrari Challenge as well. So yes, very good to hear. So Massimo Perena then ahead of Jason McCarthy and Gray Falva. That's how it's going to be, and it's going to be Gurdas Venslovas ahead of Matt Dalton and Gregory Hopkins. So yeah, great news for Gurdas Venslovas then. It's not his first win this season. He took a win and reinforced the talent that Tony saw at Cota in the second race at Cota. So, but for this man, Massimo Perena, yeah, count them up: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wins now, as he revs the car past the checkered flag. Well done, Massimo Perena. Race winner for Ferrari 488 Challenge and the Trofeo Pirelli category, and Gurdas Venslovas then for the Shell category. He is victorious ahead of Matt Dalton and Gregory Hopkins. So there the cars turning in then and making their way back to Parc Ferme, and Amanda Buzik will be warming up and standing by, ready to grab those drivers just as quickly as she can as they vault their way out of the cars. And yeah, Massimo Perena, I spoke to him briefly at lunchtime today. I mean, he's a very articulate young man as well, you know, and you look at racing drivers and talented young racing drivers making their way in motorsport now. I mean, you've made mention of the fact, you know, to see him in a 296 is going to be something else. I'm sure there is a plan for him, but you know, being good of words and articulate as well, all of those things very, very important in the craft of a racing driver now. It's not just only about winning races, though. Of course, that is the most important thing. And
also, what has impressed me is different track conditions. Cooler, hotter track, rain, trying track where he's on rain tires and still managing tires that not in a condition where they're perfect. So he's been adapting all those situations perfectly and being always on the top of the standings in qualifying and practice. So it's been impressive run so far, and all different type of tracks as well. And yeah, and it seems that comes to him quite easily. So he doesn't need to work too much for it. So those are signs for great talent.
I mean, in fairness, he comes from good stock, doesn't he, Perena's? And there is Massimo then being congratulated. Plenty of row going on around the podium area already. And Massimo then, well done. Done a great job.
Pasquale forever is written on the car, and it shows that we need to get this helmet painted. It has steel carbon colors on it, so we need to put some color on this helmet.
Roberto there congratulating him. Jan Bernier congratulating him as well. So lots of congratulations all round. Let's get confirmed classification then. For the 488 Challenge Race 1, Massimo Perena taking the win from Jason McCarthy and Gray Falver. Then it was Mark Musso, Logan Broughton and Michael Porter. For the Shell drivers, Gerda Svenslovas with his second win of the season ahead of Matthew Dalton and Gregory Hopkins. Then it was Gary Ott, Greg Griffin, Henry Hummel, Richard Pineda, Brad Evans, Dan Magnuszewski ahead of Anthony DiCarlo. And then it was Lance Corley, Jeffrey Keel, Stephen Chen, and then, of course, down Steve Blevett, Kevin Orsini, and Joel Rosenbacher, and Enoch Hurd and Michael Merrithew did not start. So, confirmed classification. Massimo Perena, Ferrari of Seattle, is with Amanda Busick.
And that guy that you saw greet Massimo at his car when he pulled into the podium celebrations here was his father, who told me a little story earlier that 2 years ago he sat here nervous watching you race around this place. It was only your second event as a driver at that point. Who is Massimo, the driver, now?
I like to say he improved. I mean, if this doesn't prove it, I don't know what will. I'm hoping to keep this level of season that we have going on so far just like this. I mean, this is what I think makes me the driver I am now.
Describe the ride you're on right now.
As good as it gets. The emotional high versus, as well as the high that the team gets from all the success, I think it couldn't be better. I'm so happy. Yeah.
5 wins in a row, guys.
Yes, indeed. Told you he was articulate. Very, very good. Well done, Massimo. Continue your trajectory of success, friend. Yes, your dad obviously saw the talent that was there, and you have delivered on that. There's no question about that as we see the cars lined up down there and the podium from our drone. And, the podium ceremonies will be getting underway very, very shortly, I am sure. But absolutely fantastic stuff. Well done to Massimo Perena. And Gerda Svenslovas, of course, is winner for the Shell drivers. And right on cue, here is Amanda with that man.
Gertis, Tony Verlander was telling the story of how he saw you earlier in the year, and you were debating of where you wanted to take your next step in your racing career. You decided on Ferrari Challenge. You now have 2 wins on the season. You're going to stand on that top step here in just a second. You're also leading the points. How happy are you with this decision?
As happy as I can. Yeah, it was a good day. The team did great, and I just tried not to finish in the wall. So I think I accomplished that.
From the very first race kicking off the season in COTA to right now, how much have you improved in those races?
I think I feel more comfortable with this very fast car. Never drove a car like this, so yes, I feel better.
All right, does Tony get credit that you're in the series now?
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
Congratulations.
That was great.
See, Tony? Yeah, down to you, friend. Down to you. Well done. Gerda Svenslovas then. Still wearing his Corsa Pilota jacket with some pride there. That's nice to see.
Yeah, great. This is great. This is all about Ferrari and doing all these events around the world, and then seeing the success and improvement of these our clients or drivers. So this is great to see.
Yeah, well done. Great stuff. So Massimo Perena and Gerda Svenslovas, who we've heard from then, they are the winners of the Pirelli and Shell categories in the 488 Challenge. And their drivers all assembling ahead of the podium to come, of course, a little bit later on, all part of the festivities here at Watkins Glen. And as Amanda has alluded to, bit of a party going on tonight with fireworks provided by Tony Davis. Now, I don't think he's the man down there with the match, to be honest. But it's something that we're going to be looking forward to. So from Amanda, from Tony, and from myself, thank you so much for watching. We'll see you for qualifying and races tomorrow. Bye-bye for now.
Thank you.